Hi crafty friends, Irene here with Artemis Made 1, and I'm very excited to be sharing with you this waffly cute miss you card. I had to throw a pun in there. All right, so we're going to jump right in here. We are using the Layered Waffle 6x6 stencil set and the Oh My Pie die set, or at least those little blueberries. So with a layered stencil, usually it means that you've got multiple layers, obviously, and a lot of times it's because it's going to add dimension, and that's exactly what this does here. So it stencils out a really nice large round waffle that also works with our circle shaped card, and it also stencils a little pat of butter and some syrup. So it's a really handy stencil to give you that good breakfast deliciousness on your card. But today we're not just gonna do your run-of-the-mill stenciling. We are going to break some rules. How do we feel about that? We okay breaking a few rules? It's crafty rules, so, no, craft police aren't coming after us, I promise you. All right, so I am first stenciling layer 1, and now I'm coming in with layer 2. And the second layer here is where it really gets fun because with a darker color of ink, it adds a really great layer of dimension and gives it that waffle hole kind of look. The little divots that are in the waffle? That's what you're going to get with the second layered stencil. So now we're going to get into breaking rule number 1. So rule 1 about layered stenciling, unspoken rule, unwritten rule, is that the shape of the stencil that you are inking up is the only shape that you've got with that stencil. Well, I'm going to show you here, that's not quite right. I wanted to do some waffle medallions rather than a full large waffle. So I decided that in order to get enough circle medallions out of my waffle stencil, I needed to extend it. So when you have a repeating pattern like this waffle, all you have to do is just add the stencil to a further layer beyond the border of what you already stenciled, and then just add more color. So granted, it's color on top of color, so you can see a little bit of variation there, but it's a baked good, so it's okay, right? Some parts of your waffle are just a little bit darker, and that is totally fine. So here, because of this, I'm kind of losing the circle outline, which is fine, and I'm able to cut out a couple different medallions of my waffle. So that's rule number 1 that we are breaking. We are going to be able to change the shape of our stencil. All right, now moving on, I grabbed the little blueberry cluster from the Oh My Pie die set. It's such a cute set. It was really great around the holidays, but clearly it's not just for the holidays. You can use it any time of year. Now I'm adding a little bit of extra dimension here with the darker blue ink, and I'm just inking up kind of a half moon shape on my little blueberries to give them a little bit of shadow. Now I'm coming in with the Jelly Roll White number 10, and I am going to show you the next little rule we're going to break. Don't think that we're limited to the ink that we use to ink up our stencils. You can very easily take that white gel pen and just add little white highlights. You can do that, of course, with any kind of die cuts or anything, but in this particular scenario, it is adding even further dimension to the little divots in our waffle. All right, moving on to the next layered stencil rule that we are gonna kind of play fast and loose with here. And that is that we tend to think we are limited to using stencils with cardstock. I am here to tell you, friends, that is not the case. You can stencil on all kinds of different substrates, I guess you'd say. In this case, I'm actually using a light blue colored vellum from Pear Blossom Press. So I know it looks a little messy right there, but it's going to be great. I wanted a kind of translucency that I couldn't get from cardstock, and the vellum was exactly what was giving me exactly what I needed. The only thing is, moving on to our next rule that we're breaking, I wanted it to be more blue and less of that sea green type blue. So kudos to design team member Jen Gross for suggesting this, but we tend to think that we should use our stencils with, dye ink or pigment ink or something like that. You can use so many different mediums with your stencils. In this case, clearly I was using an alcohol marker, so it really is not limited to just the ink that you use with a blending brush. Okay, moving on to our alphabet soup die set. How cute is this set? I am using a couple components from it. The little fork here that I just could not get enough of this tiny little fork. And you could make that a bowl, but it's actually, I'm using it as a plate. Although I suppose you could put your waffles in a bowl. Can you imagine all the syrup you could get into that? Oh, sounds so good. Sounds terrible, but also good. Terrible for my waistline maybe, but delicious. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is take that translucent vellum, and if you recall, I used the alcohol marker to kind of trace the shape of it, and what that helped me do is keep the organic shape of the syrup that the stencil afforded me. But I wanted it to be smaller just so that it was nice in proportion to my little medallions. So I just kept following that same outline that the stencil gave us and just kept cutting it down. Okay, so now I am doing a little bit of spattering on my background here with some Distress Spritz sprays. And then I'm also going to add the Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White. I feel like white always is a really nice balance to pretty much any kind of color palette. In this case, it is almost looking, in my mind, like a countertop, maybe like a kitchen countertop where you might be placing your plate while you work on your waffles. That was my thought process here. And now I'm going to pull in the Waffle Lot set because I really wanted to use the sweet little sentiment in this set. I admit I had a hard time narrowing down which of the sentiments I wanted to use because I'm just such a sucker for puns, and it's cute and I just loved it. But I ended up settling on I miss you a waffle lot. So I lined up the sentiments in a way that I thought would work on my card, and using the Rabbit Hole Designs anti-static powder tool, I put down some powder, and now I'm going to use the Ink on 3 Shark Tooth White ink. This is my favorite white ink to use with embossing powder because it doesn't sink into the cardstock too much. It's a hybrid ink that sits on top, so you get that nice white color. And I really wanted the white to stand out in my sentiment here. So I heat embossed it, and now I'm going to kind of play around with the layout. You see me moving and shifting things around. I wasn't quite sure exactly how I wanted it to look, but I knew that I'd get there. All right, so now I am going to basically line up my little medallion waffles in a way that I think makes the most sense for my card. Now you see the plate is hanging off the edge, the waffle's hanging off the edge, all that's going to get trimmed down. But first I am going to show you a little trick that I really like to do whenever I'm doing this kind of layering with pieces on top of each other where I don't want to lose exactly where those pieces are. So if you noticed, I put a piece of low-tack tape across all 3 of my medallions, and I picked them up with that tape all together. So that's the first trick there. You got to put that tape down and make sure that you're holding all of your pieces together. All right, so now the bottommost piece, hello. I always like to write you messages because, I'm thinking of you while I'm filming. So I would put some glue on my bottommost piece, lay it where I want it, and then pick up the other pieces, in this case 2 pieces. Now again, the bottommost piece gets glue. I'm able to lay it down with a good visual of where I want everything, and I pull up the last piece. So now by having those pieces taped together, I was able each time to make sure that it was going to land exactly where I wanted it to go. So there we go, our little waffles are down, and now we get the delicious little syrup. So what I find with vellum, and in this case in particular, because I was not going to have too many things on top of my vellum to be able to hide any kind of tape behind it, if you put a vellum piece on double-sided adhesive, on a whole strip or whole sheet of double-sided adhesive, you're not going to see the glue because the whole thing is glue essentially. So it won't have any difference or variation in color because the whole backside of it is double-sided adhesive. So it basically turns it into a sticker. So I moved it around here a little bit to get the shape that I wanted. And then I stuck it down once, and then I realized, move it over a little, and then I stuck it down for good. There we go. So after a little bit more deliberation, I decided where I wanted my blueberries. I had them all over the place, but I decided, you know what? A nice little cluster in the middle would be really sweet, really cute, and it just seemed visually pleasing to my eye. I just liked it. But I also, I wanted to always be ready to have a bite there, so I went ahead and put a blueberry on a fork as well. So here I just adhered them down. The topmost blueberry, I went ahead and popped up with a little bit of foam tape, or foam square here, and I just kind of stuck it in the middle. So I have my little grouping of blueberries, and then I did the same thing with the blueberry on my fork. So I'm first going to glue down my fork just to make sure that it's nice and adhered. And I had moved that fork all over the place. I just wasn't sure where I wanted it, but I decided at the top it looked like you're just getting ready to dig into that delicious breakfast. All right, so there we go. I slid it into the tine, and I have a little bit of foam tape underneath that blueberry as well to give it a little bit more dimension. Now I have foam tape also on the back of my sentiment here, and I am just going to align it and stick it right down. I like to turn it sideways as well to make sure that I'm lining it up both with the bottom of my card and with the side of my card. That just helps me visualize. All right, I cut off the little bit of excess there, and now I'm going to just glue my card down. And I think I neglected to mention earlier, this is an A2 card, so it is 4¼ inches by 5½ inches, and it's a portrait style. Now, one thing I wanted to say real quick before we wrap it up here, you probably noticed me using the Trinity Stamps Blending Buddies earlier. Those are the Trinity blending brushes. They're so soft and so ergonomic that they feel great in your hands. I am sharing that with you because we have a contest going on right now on Instagram and also in our Facebook group if you wanted to go that route. All you have to do is take a picture of how you store your blending buddies and then post it with hashtag Trinity Blending Buddy, and we will draw a winner at the end of the month. So I wanted to make sure to mention it because I did not want you to miss out on that fun opportunity. All right, friends, that's it. This is our finished card. It is very cute. I can't help it. I can't help it. I'm sorry. I thank you so much for spending time with me, and I hope you are encouraged to grab some paper and craft something that really makes you smile. Come on over and check us out on Instagram and on Facebook, and we will see you there. Thanks, friends. Bye-bye.